Everybody, this is going to be a very short chapter 27. Now, in chapter 26, we saw that it just keeps happening to Auntie. Her one friend, Louise, sold her pig and has left without so much as a goodbye. Can you imagine how betrayed Auntie feels? Can you imagine how angry she is? All right, so let's see what chapter 27 has in store for us. All right, chapter 27 says, I asked Tantati if Bridget and I could sleep in her room with her the night before we were to return to New York. We put down some sheets on the floor and stretched out with the baby between us. Tantati turned her back to the wall as though she did not want me to see her cry. We heard my mother pacing the front room's floor, back and forth, waiting for the sun to rise. Louise would have found her money somehow, some way, I told Tantati. She would have done anything to make that trip. Sometimes when people have something they want to do, you cannot stop them, even if you want to. I was a fool to think she was my friend, Tantati said. Money makes dogs dance. At least she taught you how to read your letters. Anyone could have taught me that. A lot of good letters will do me now. Sometimes I wish I could go back in time with you to when we were younger. She closed her eyes as though to drift off to sleep. The past is always the past, she said. Children are the rewards of life, and you were my child. The next day, Tantati led the cart that took my mother's and my bags to the marketplace. The sun was shining in Tantati's eyes as she carried my daughter for me. My grandmother and my mother had their arms wrapped around one another's waist, clinging as though they would never see each other again. When we got to the van that would take us to Port-au-Prince, my grandmother just stepped back and let go. My mother kissed her on both cheeks and then walked over to kiss Tantati. Tantati tapped my mother's shoulder and whispered for her to be careful. As Tantati handed me my daughter, she said, treat your mother well. You don't have her forever. My grandmother tapped the baby's chin. The faces in this child, she said, fighting back the tears. My mother paid the tap-tap driver for us to have the van all to ourselves. It was all ours except for the old hunchback, whose charcoal bags had already been loaded on it. Tantati was standing under the red flamboyant tree, clinging to a low branch as the van pulled away. Slowly, everything in La Nouvelle de Marie became a blur. My grandmother and the vendors. Tantati at the flaming red tree. The marcoutes around Louise's stand. Even the hill in the distance. The place that Tantati called Guinan. A place where all the women in my family hope to eventually meet one another at the very end of our journeys. All right, that's the end of chapter 27, I think. Chapter 27. All right, so from here we move on to part 4 of the novel, which I think will be the last part of the novel. All right, so we are closing. So when we get back to part 4, which is going to begin at chapter 28, we are in the sunset of the text. All right, please stick around with me to see how the story finally closes. Alright. Do you think it's gonna have a happy ending? Do you think it's gonna have a sad ending? If you think it's gonna have a happy ending, what gave you that idea? If you think it's gonna have a sad ending, what are you using as your foreshadowing? What are we seeing? Alright, so if you stay with me, stay tuned, stick around, and find out. Alright, so our next chapter will be chapter 28, which will be part 4, final part of this text. I hope you are enjoying the readings and you're gaining great insight. If you have not already done so, please like, share, subscribe to my channel, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you again very soon.